And now it is time for some fantasy football 2024. We got our guy D Nasty back. Dave, well, here we are, man. It's already August. It's August 12th. Fantasy football time is now, my friend. How you been doing? How's your summer?
No, that's awesome, man. It's been flying by. I can't believe summer's almost over already. I'm pretty pumped that football's be starting here soon.
I am too. I am, man. It's in Arizona, it's a hot summer. So we're ready for some football, some fall, some nice weather. It's I've been coaching a lot of football though. My son's just been busy in baseball and football. You know how that is.
Oh yeah.
Season's already started for them too. But here we are, and it's fantasy football time. It's crazy to start thinking about like injuries and stuff. But here we are after week 1 in preseason, and we already have some injuries, man. It's something you got to take with a grain of salt. It's not too significant this week, but I do want to bring up a little bit about the injuries here. And before we get into that, what did you think about the whole? I would say running backs coming into this year with I think from the spring and the summer and the draft, it almost feels like running backs this year aren't really is needed almost in the top rounds as wide receivers are. Has wide receivers kind of taken over, Dave?
I definitely think so, yes. A lot of my dynasty leagues when I've been drafting, actually Jefferson's been going up there, Chase. I just did a new dynasty startup this week. Actually, we're drafting. We're in about the 11th or 12th round now. And actually, Jamar Chase went number 1 in that, which I was pretty shocked, actually. And then Jefferson was right up there as well. So wide receivers are slowly taking over, and CD Lamb too. So you are seeing the shift now to more wide receiver now heavy teams and more people not drafting running backs early. Even a lot of running backs didn't even go until the 2nd or 3rd round in this dynasty league that I'm just drafting in this week. So you are seeing that shift now in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the NFL this year there was no first round running back pick in the draft either. And it's kind of takes something special like Bijan Robinson last year, but Gibbs obviously was picked as well. But that kind of just perfect segue to injuries here. Gibbs got a little bit injured, Dave. I mean, week 1 of preseason's here, and we already lost some guys, some for the year. I believe it was that wide receiver Moore. Yeah, Rondale Moore. I didn't want to say DJ Moore, and that's my Bears guy. Rondale Moore. And he was on the Cardinals for a long time, but then he goes to the Falcons, and the Falcons all hyped up this year, and he tore his ACL, didn't he?
He did, yes. He's out for the year now. He was only going to be the third wideout there anyways. He's fighting for that third wideout job because Darnell Mooney and Drake London are both going to be the starters there. So he was only going to be the third wideout there. So I don't know how fantasy relevant he would have been. But he probably would have still got quite a few targets actually this year. But that is a big blow for him because he was fighting for that third wideout spot and some targets this year with Atlanta. With Kirk Cousins there too, they might have a nice passing game there as well.
Yeah, speaking of Cousins, we're not even sure when he's going to be ready. I doubt he's going to play this whole preseason. He's still, got to be somewhat timid on that ankle. I think he will. I think he will start though. For game 1 in the NFL. But some other receivers, you got Josh Downs with an ankle injury. You got Malik Neighbors who hurt his ankle, and Chiefs wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown. Man, a sternoclavicle joint or something. I heard he was pretty injured, but now I'm starting to see he still could possibly come back to week 1.
He's questionable for week 1 still, is what they're saying right now. But yeah, that is a pretty weird injury. I agree. But they're saying questionable for week 1, so maybe week 1, week 2, maybe at the worst. So, but we'll have to wait and see on that injury probably.
Yeah, and Jahmyr Gibbs too. Hamstring could be a bad hamstring. It just depends upon what grade it is. They're not really telling us, being that it's preseason, they don't have to completely release some of that information. But I doubt you're going to see much of Gibbs this whole preseason for the next 2 weeks here, in my opinion. So, there you have it, Dave. It's always about injuries in fantasy football, and that's why we always cover them first. So, interesting. Go ahead.
And I'd like to mention too, some of the people have actually been looking pretty good this first week. If you've been watching some NFL games, guy I really like Joe Milton for the New England Patriots. I know they drafted Drake May there. So, but Joe Milton, you just keep an eye on him. Actually, if he has a couple more good games, he might be start pushing Drake a little bit for that starting spot. I know that he's a first round pick. That won't happen, but definitely like him though. If you can get him and put him in some dynasty leagues and put him on your bench.
All right, Milton. We'll keep our eye on him too. Yeah, there's all kinds of guys that's going to pop up. Those late round picks. You remember Achin from last year? He was all of a sudden lightning speed. People are like, where did this guy come from? It's like these fourth round running backs that you barely draft in your fantasy league. In dynasty league, you maybe will, but sometimes in your fantasy league, you won't draft a guy, and he just comes out of nowhere. But we're going to talk about that with some of our running back percentage, and I think this is one of the most important podcasts that we do talk about, because it's important to find out kind of their percentage of usage. And you can go by snaps, or you can go by actual percentage of total usage between catches and rushes. That's kind of what I think. And so we're going to go over and see where we agree. And we're going to start with the NFC North, because Dave and I are NFC North fans. And unfortunately, neither of our teams are number one, because you still got the Lions up there. So we're starting with the Lions. I know the Packers are creeping in their minds, but you got the Lions here. And I think I have, to be honest with you, Dave, I know Gibbs got banged up, but I kind of have him as the new bell cow. I think he's going to get more passes. I think he's going to get some more rushes this year too. I think Montgomery's taking the back seat. It's not going to be a big back seat, but I got Jahmyr Gibbs at 45%. I got David Montgomery at 40%. And then probably Craig Reynolds and Stone, was it Vacky? 15% maybe they're sharing. What do you think about the Lions?
I do agree with you on that, but I still think David Montgomery, they're actually a running team. And in first, second downs, he's definitely still going to be David Montgomery. I think Gibbs does get some more catches this year. I'm actually more pretty even on this one. I think it's 40-40, actually. Actually, no, I'd say 40. Yeah, I'm going to go 40-40, actually, still.
40-40. Okay.
Yep, and I think Craig Reynolds picks up the scraps here. And then I don't know about Sian Faki. I don't know if he's going to really get much at all. But I think it's going to be pretty evenly distributed among the running game here. And they have one of the best offenses in the league too. Actually, they have a top 10 offense, so they're all going to get their touches too. Still, Montgomery's not going to get as many catches, but I think he's going to get still some more rushes than Gibbs does. But Gibbs is going to get more receptions.
There's a big difference between the number 2 guy in a great team and a number 2 guy in a bad team. Your number 2 guy in a great team, in some cases, might even be an RB1. And there's a couple teams that we'll talk about soon about that. Well, let's go to the Packers then, Dave, and I'll let you start this, being the big Packer fan. Who's going to be the bell cow for the Green Bay Packers?
I think it's going to be Josh Jacobs. They like A.J. Dillon. He came in the camp really healthy, really fit. They said that he's been really working on his quickness and elusiveness. They really like him. I think Jacobs still is going to be at least 50 to 55%. I think Dillon will get at least 25 to 30%, and I think Marshawn Lloyd picks up the rest of that. Emmanuel Wilson really did look really good actually this past week in the preseason. He will still be on the team, so maybe 5% for him. But Marshawn Lloyd is injured right now. He's one of those injuries too as well. So that injury is hurting him right now. So if he doesn't get healthy soon, Emmanuel Wilson could actually pass him up for carries as well. So, but I do like Jacobs to be the bell cow there. And I think Dillon gets about 20 to 25% of those carries then there.
I don't think they're completely giving that much more to Jacobs over tree trunk legs A.J. Dillon. People love A.J. Dillon.
They are, I think. They really like Jacobs. And they signed him that big contract, and they let.
Well, they're going to use him. I have 55% Jacobs. I have 35% Dillon. So we're not that far off. Yeah. But hey, and you're the Packer fan. You might be right. I would trust your opinion more than mine on this.
They really like Lloyd a lot, actually. If he gets healthy, I think they're going to use him. They said he could even pass up A.J. Dillon as the number 2 back, actually, is what they're saying in the media here.
Dillon better get going. Maybe Dillon's just going to be kind of a short yardage guy, if all you know. That could happen too. Marshawn Lloyd, I have at 15%, but we'll see about his injuries and all. Going to the Minnesota Vikings, and I guess you could have just flipped the Bears and the Vikings. Actually, probably I'll go with the Bears. The Bears are supposed to have a better year, but we'll see. I have DeAndre Swift at 45% for the Bears. I still think they like Khalil Herbert a lot and Roschon Johnson a lot. I mean, I think this is going to be a true committee, Dave. And to be honest with you, I wrote Swift 45%, Herbert and Johnson each 25% apiece, and then some scraps for garbage time for somebody else. But I wrote this it's hard to draft a Bear right now at running back because I just don't know what's going to happen. It's a mess. I want to stay away from this situation.
No, I agree. I say 33% for all of them, actually. For DeAndre, Herbert, and Johnson, I think all 33%. This is, like you said, I think this is a true committee. I'm still not really sold on Swift. He had a nice year last year, but he is injury prone, and I could see one of those other 2 backs starting to get more carries, especially Johnson. He's young. He's only a second-year guy, so I can see one of those guys actually becoming the bell cow halfway through the year, or maybe winning more carries as the year goes on. I'm still not sold on Swift, but you never know that Swift could take over that backfield as well. So this is really a tough one, though. Like I said, like you said, this is definitely a true
Yeah.
committee.
I didn't like the pickup for the Bears. I mean, if the Lions didn't want him that much, and then the Eagles didn't want him that much, something's wrong with the guy. I don't know. I wouldn't draft Swift if you can avoid it. Let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings. Then the Vikings stole your boy,
I
Aaron
know.
Jones.
I'm sad to
And
see him go.
what do you think about the percentage here?
They really like Jones. Jones, I think it will be the bell cow. I'd say at least 55% for him, and then probably 25 to 30% for Chandler. And then actually, Chandler probably gets most of those. I think there's some scraps in there for the other two running backs, Kenya and then McBride. I don't think they really get much though. But I think Jones will be the bell cow there. That's why they signed him. I was actually really looking forward to see Jones and Jacobs in the same backfield. That would have been ridiculous, but I was pretty sad to see Aaron Jones go. He was a good running back, so but I definitely could see him being the bell cow there, though.
I thought it was strange too. I almost think that maybe it's because he was still the Rodgers era, and they're trying to wipe their hands from the Rodgers era or
Who knows?
something. I have no idea.
I think
75%.
it was his age. They said it was his age. They wanted to sign Jacobs, who's like 3-4 years younger, but who knows?
I don't know. I don't like Jacobs that much. Aaron Jones, I think, is better than Jacobs. Aaron Jones, I have 75%. I think they paid him for a reason, and they got rid of Madison for a reason. Ty Chandler is going to get 20%, and Kenny Ngakwe, I don't even know how to say it, Ngakwu or something, Wang Wu. Such a weird last name. 5%. I put so he's not.
Yeah, he's not going to get much. I definitely agree with that. I would probably even bump up Aaron Jones after we're talking 60 to 65%. I would say I would agree with that.
Yeah, he's a true RB1 in my opinion. One of the few
for sure.
Let's move on to the NFC South. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Rashad White, 75%. I have actually Bucky Irving coming up from the Oregon draft. He was drafted decently. 20% for Bucky. Chase Edmonds and Sean Tucker, I think, get the scraps at 5%. Now, I will say Rashad White had the third most snap percentage behind CMC. And there's who was the other? It was I can't remember right now. I'll have to look it up. It might have been even ETN that had a ton of snap percentage last year. It was just ridiculous when I looked. It was kind of surprised. Yeah, it was ETN. So but still, he was number 3. I was actually surprised to see White being used that much. So I actually kept him at 75%, Dave.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I would say 65% for him. I think Chase will get more on the he's more of a third down back. So I see him still getting a lot of receptions, actually. So I'll go 65 and then 20, and then 15% for Edmonds. I'm going to give him a little bit more than you did, but just because I think that Edmonds is a valuable receiver over the backfield, just to give White a break. But White will definitely get your receptions for you. In a PPR leagues, he's going to be very valuable back for you.
Why don't you go ahead with the Atlanta Falcons?
That's my boy, Bijan. I'm saying 75% for him, even though I know Tyler is going to get some carries there too. 25% for Tyler. I don't see any of the other two running backs getting much. They have the rookie Chase McClellan that they like, but I don't see him getting much. They really want to work Bijan now this year, so I see him being the workhorse this year for him.
I do too. I have 70% for him, only because they might want to be slightly careful. But Tyler Argio is 20%, and yeah, McClellan and Avery Williams the other 10%. Saints, I have Alvin Kamara. 65%. This guy used to get a lot more. He's old now. Jamal Williams is creeping there at 30%. Good leader to teams. Jamal Williams is a vocal guy. He'll get his. And then I only have Kendry Miller and Jordan Mims 5%.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. 65% I'd say for Kamara, 20% for Jamal, and then the remaining 15% to Kendra and Kendra. And then maybe James Robinson, but James Robinson, he might have make the team even. So definitely it's going to be Jamal and mostly Kamara.
The Carolina Panthers, this is a messy one, Dave. What do you have for them?
I'm going Chubb. I'm going 65% until Jonathan's healthy. Jonathan Brooks might not come back until week 2 or 3, another injury that you have to keep an eye on. Miles Sanders, I think he's definitely going to be the second fiddle there. Let's say 35% for Miles Sanders, and then the scraps will go to the other running backs. But once Jonathan Brooks is healthy, though, this backfield is definitely going to change. I think 45% for Chubb once Brooks comes back, and then it's going to be like 20-20 probably for Miles Sanders and Brooks. Actually, they're going to split those other carries, but Brooks to eventually take over this backfield, though.
Miles Sanders was a terrible signing for the Panthers last year. I don't understand what the hell they were thinking. Then they go draft Brooks high, I do like Brooks, but he's hurt in week 4, week 5. I've heard at the latest. That's not good. Chuba Hubbard, is he going to lose his position? I don't know. This is like the Bears. I want to stay away from
Yeah,
Carolina
this is
Panthers
definitely
running back
this is a
situation.
battle to stay away from for sure.
Yeah, exactly. This is one where someone injures a running back week 3 or 4, and they know finally who Carolina's bell cow's going to be. They'll overpay for the guy, and he's on a bad team. So that's what's going to happen in this situation. San Fran, I mean, seriously, do we even have to go over it? CMC, baby, all day, every day, 80% plus. Elijah Mitchell, 10%. Isaac Garendo and Jordan Mason, 10%. All I said is CMC's just got to stay healthy. I mean, he's the number one pick of every draft. Yep. Yeah.
For sure. And I agree with that. I'm the same percentages as you had for that one too. 80 for McCaffrey, and then 10 and 10 for Mason and Elijah Mitchell. So I definitely agree with you on that one. McCaffrey's definitely the best running back in the league as long as he's healthy.
What do you have for the Rams?
Rams is an interesting situation as well. Rams, they have Kyren Williams, who's actually I'm gonna go 75% for him. Blake Corum, I'm gonna do 25% for him. But this backfield could change halfway through the year as well. So they still have Zach Evans there too, and Boston Scott, who I don't think is going to be relevant there. So it's mostly going to be Kyren and Blake Corum. But if Kyren gets injured, he's another one that I injury risk that I really worry about actually. So Blake Corum could be the lead back by the midseason if Kyren gets hurt.
Kyren Williams actually had a massive high snap percentage. Maybe he was the guy I was thinking of. And you said it. I'm worried for Blake Corum. Blake Corum's a stud. He went to the wrong team in LA. He should have went with his former coach, Jim Harbaugh, but here we are. And I think he's going to get used a lot. I have Blake Corum as a sleeper in your draft. I think a late round sleeper could be good for Blake Corum, in my opinion. Very good chance he takes over. Seattle Seahawks. This is another interesting situation because Kenneth Walker kind of fell out of love last year, Dave.
Well, and they have a new coaching staff there now too. They have a new offensive coordinator and a new head coach. So the old head coach really liked Kenny Walker, and they drafted him. And then they drafted Zach in the second round as well. Both were second round picks. I was actually reading a story on them today. Actually, they're just saying that they really don't know. They said Kenny Walker still should be the lead back there, but it's going to be very, very close there. So I'm saying 55-45. Zach could actually end up taking over that backfield halfway through the year as well. So this is iffy situation here too. This is more of a timeshare too, but it's not between three backs, just between two. But it's really hard to tell who's going to be the lead back here. But Kenny Walker is right now, at least.
I don't know what's going to happen. I think Zach was good, but I also think Kenny McIntosh is really good. And I have him as a not sleeper to draft, but someone you can just keep your eye on because Walker slumped last year, and the new coaching staff might just be like, well, these guys are going to want money. Kenny McIntosh just trying to prove himself. Running backs are that expendable at times. So I'd be careful with this one as well. Arizona Cardinals. Now they're another team that drafted a running back, Dave.
Yeah, very interesting. James Conner, I still have that 55%. I'm going to do 40% for Trey Benson. This is another one to watch too. James Conner had a great year last year. He's one of his best seasons actually last year, and they really like running the ball there too. So I think Conner still puts up nice numbers, but if he gets hurt and he gives Trey Benson his time to shine, it could be over for Conner. But we'll see though. If Conner can stay healthy, I still think he's the lead back there.
Yeah, Benson was drafted high enough to tell me that he will slide into the 2 spot for sure. The question is if he's take over Conner. Conner runs hard. The guy runs with passion.
Yeah. And he had a great year last year.
Absolutely. But I will say Benson, though, is slotted to get carries. He's someone that you can probably roster. So that's my opinion on that. Philadelphia Eagles. So here we are. Saquon Barkley, Dave. How much are they using him?
They're using him a lot. I have Kenneth Gainwell in a couple leagues back. I don't think Kenneth Gainwell or Will Shipley is really going to get many touches. I think they're going to keep Barkley, try and keep him healthy. So I think they still give him breaks, but they're going to really run him after signing him. They're going to definitely use him, and they need him for their run game. The run game has struggled the last couple of years. DeAndre Swift was good for him last year, but I think Saquon's going to be even better. I think 65% for Barkley. I say 25% for Gainwell, and then I think Shipley maybe gets some of those extra carries there as well. But I think Saquon's definitely the workhorse there.
He is absolutely the workhorse. I have him at 70%. And Kenneth Gainwell, I just have him respectfully at 25 with Shipley and Lou Nichols getting nothing. But here's the problem with the Eagles, the freaking tush push. It takes away so many touchdowns from those running backs. And I'm very concerned about that. Yes, I still think Barkley will get heavy usage, but in those in those leagues that it's a 6-point touchdown for quarterbacks, it's going to be helping Hurts and hurting Barkley a lot more. So I'm concerned for that. Dallas Cowboys, we have a familiar face back in Dallas, don't we, Dave?
Zeke. I don't know this. I didn't know what to think of this backfield. Zeke's getting up there in age. I'm going to go 45% for him, 45% for Rico, and the remaining split up between Malik Davis and Royce Freeman. I don't know if Zeke can really handle a full load at his age. He struggled actually the year before he left Dallas too. So he looked good with the Patriots last year, but I don't know how much gas he has left in the tank for Zeke. So I think Rico could eventually take that over, but I think it's kind of a timeshare there between those two.
55% Zeke, 40% Dowdle, Freeman, and Davis, 5%. Run away from this, I said.
Yes.
The Cowboys lost 3 offensive linemen to free agency last year. I don't know what this is going to look like. And Zeke is getting older. It's just not good. It could be a really messy situation. I know they love Zeke in Dallas.
And Lamb might hold out too. And then they got Dak needs a contract too. So it's a big mess in Dallas right now.
I don't understand it, man. It's just a total mess in Dallas with CeeDee Lamb and both Dak. Just this is what happens when you get in contract troubles. They also have a great pass rusher. They're going to have to pay as well soon.
Yeah,
so
they're all going to get paid too.
That's right. New York Giants, Devin Singletary. I have 60%. Eric Gray and Tyrone Tracy. I have 35% somehow. They're going to split that up, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure Devin Singletary is an RB1. I just thought he kind of landed into it with Buffalo, and I never liked him. Never thought he was all that good. I think he's average, but I don't think he's as good as an RB1.
Actually, everyone thought that too, but then he took over Damon Pierce's job with the Texans last year. So, and he looked really good actually doing it too. And he had some big games last year. So I think he's like a low end running back one. I think I would agree with you on that. Maybe borderline high running back 2, but he's definitely going to get the carries there, and he's going to put up some numbers for you for fantasy wise. And like you said, I think 60% for him, and then I think the remaining 20% is divvied up between Tracy and Gray. Gray actually might get more of that. I think Gray is more like 25% of that, and then Tyrone Tracy is a little bit less. Tyrone Tracy is a converted wide receiver, and he's still learning actually the running back position, but they really like his athleticism. Eric Gray actually had a really good preseason game last week as well. So Eric Gray might be jumping ahead of Tyrone Tracy, actually.
Dave, there's a reason that the Texans signed Joe Mixon, and Dameon Pierce is still sitting in the doghouse, my friend. The Commanders, what about the Commanders this year? This could be a worse situation.
Actually, the Commanders, I like Brian Robinson actually there.
I know. I like both of them.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is a tough situation as well, though. Actually, too. I like Brian Robinson. I like Eckler, but Eckler's getting up there in age too. I think he's more of a receiving back now. I think Robinson's kind of going to be the number one, the first and second down guy. I think Eckler's going to get some carries, but he's going to still be like the third down back. And they still like Chris Rodriguez actually that had decent year or two there last year. Again, new coaching, new philosophies too. So you never know what they're going to do. I'm going to go 45, 45, and 10 because I think Chris Rodriguez still gets some carries there and some maybe like some third down looks as well.
I had the exact numbers 45, 45, and 10 for Chris Rodriguez, 10%. Pure committee, however, both might be safe RB2s. I said,
yes,
I think they both might be safe RB2s. That's very true. Eckler will get the passes, but the problem with Eckler is once he's in, if you're a defense, you'd be stupid to not put a guy on him for sure. It's almost like it blows the cover now that he's just coming in maybe for passes. It almost makes his passing game maybe worse. I was just thinking about that today. I don't know. It's maybe more of a hot take, but I am curious to see how that pans out. Buffalo
Bill. The funny thing is too is if you watch last year, you look at last year's stats. As the year went on, the second half of the year, Brian Robinson actually had quite a few receptions actually. So I wouldn't write him off either as being a third down back and maybe staying in on some third downs too, because he did last year and he actually looked pretty good catching the ball. So this is a situation definitely to watch. And with the rookie quarterback too, they're going to try and run the ball a lot more, I think too. So to take some pressure off of Jane Daniels.
What do you got for the Buffalo Bills?
Bills, I definitely like James Cook. He's going to be definitely the bell cow there. He's the guy I really like there. Frank Gore Jr. I got Cook. I got at 65%. Ray Davis, they really like him in camp actually right now. So I'm going to say 35% for him, and then the rest goes to Ty Johnson, the last 5%. And maybe Frank Gore is mixed in there too. I don't even know if Frank Gore is going to make the team, though. So I'm not going to put much stock in him. But I think they're really high on Ray Davis, though. But I think definitely James Cook is going to be the bell cow there, though.
Nepotism's big in sports, Dave. If Frank Gore Jr. is just going to be there because of his dad, and I have him as a sleeper. I think even though he's draft lower than Ray Davis, I think he's going to overtake Ray Davis. I have Frank Gore Jr. as a sleeper.
I like it.
I think James Cook will continue to be the bell cow, like you said, but just don't expect Gore to be sitting all year. That guy's over. If he's anything like his dad, that's the kind of guy you want on your football team.
Did you ever see a picture? He looks exactly like his dad.
He does. He looks identical to his dad. It's freaking splitting, man. Splitting image. Miami Dolphins. So I think I've pounded Mostert in your face enough the last 5-6 years. But the question is, did he lose the starting job?
I think it's going to be close. Devon is just so athletic and so fast. And he's going to demand more carries, I think. And if he stays healthy, because he was banged up a couple times last year. So I think just if he can stay healthy, I think he'll eventually take over. And Jalen Wright actually looked really well. He's one of my sleepers this year, actually. I really like him. Another guy they drafted. And then I don't even know if Jeff Wilson Jr. or Salvan Ahmad even make the team this year. So I hate to say, but Mostert, I think, still is the number one, but I think it's a timeshare definitely right now, 45-45. And I think Jalen Wright, 10%.
Yeah, it's so funny. Everyone's ranks Chin-Bet higher than Mostert. But the truth is that you don't know. And I almost think that McDaniels is a guy that's kind of old school. He's going to favor the older guy a little bit. I think both of these guys could be running back ones, believe it or not, even though it's because Miami puts up them points, man.
They don't really have a true number one running back either. They always mix it around and share the carries too.
But it's a lot safer than the Bears. It's you're pretty good with these guys, and so that's why I'm low end RB1s, high end RB2s, or one of them is going to stick out, but they'll get a true split. Jalen Wright and Jeff Wilson are just going to be used sparingly only for injury, in which both guys have proven to be injury prone.
That's how it should be. But and McDowell's is he's going to run the ball too, so they're going to get their touches too. So I like what you were saying as well.
Yeah, I think Jeff Wilson might hang in over Jalen Wright as a handcuff to one of these guys. So keep that in mind because this handcuff's going to be worth a lot for how much they're going to be running the ball in Miami. The Jets. So I hear a lot about Breece Hall being the RB second running back pick. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I took him, Bijan Robinson, actually in my dynasty league. My first two running backs picked. I traded up and got Breece Hall, who I think is probably the second best running back out there right now. But Braylon Allen, I'm going to say Breece Hall 75%. And I'm going to say 25% is going to be split up between our UW guy, Braylon Allen, and Isaiah Davis. I think those guys overtake Israel. I'm going to butcher the name here. Abanika. He never really performed last year. Their late round draft pick last year, that running back. So I like Breece Hall a lot here, actually, to be the workhorse here.
It's like Abanikanda.
Yeah.
Israel Abanikanda. I agree with you. Breece Hall 70%, Braylon Allen 25%. He had a great game last game. He's a big man. He's not quite Jonathan Taylor, but he showed us some flashes of Jonathan Taylor. So I think he's going to be awesome.
He's big and strong, yeah, and he's fast. He's faster than you think.
And both have a great offensive line now. So there you go. Yeah, Braylon Allen's going to be interesting to watch this. Your possible sleeper with Braylon Allen. New England Patriots. Ramondre Stevenson, I have him at 55%. I have Antonio Gibson at 30%, and I have Hasty and Harris kind of splitting the 15% left.
Yeah, I'm pretty close on that too as well. I have 65, 30, and then the remaining percentage to Hasty and Harris. Harris was cut at one time, so I'm not putting too much stock in him or Hasty. So it's definitely going to be those two, but I think Ramad's definitely the lead back there.
All right, and I said I don't like running backs on bad offenses, so not super high on any of these guys. Kansas City Chiefs, this is simple. 60, 30, 10. Pacheco, 60. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 30. And Prince and Keontae Ingram will split the last 10. But I will say Pacheco is a solid running back one.
And I agree. And I agree with you on those percentages too. I had the same percentages for them as well.
All right, good stuff. Let's move on to the Chargers. And this is interesting because you have this beat up Baltimore team that kind of moved to the Chargers. What a mess. And then you still have some younger guys there. What do you got with the Chargers?
I don't know what to think though. Dobbins and Edwards, they brought over the running backs coach and the offensive coordinator actually too from Baltimore, and they both played for him actually too. So I think Edwards and Dobbins both 45% each, and I think Kamani Vidal actually gets the other 10%. I think those guys.
Spiller's out. Spiller's out.
I think he might be actually. He might not even make the team. I don't think they really are high on Vidal. They really like him a lot. And Dobbins and Edwards, they're going to be solid. They're both going to get their carries there too, especially with their old coaches there who like both of them before in Baltimore. And Dobbins said he's fully healthy now too, which would be interesting to see how he does this year when he's fully healthy. Actually.
Well, I agree. 35, 35, and 30 I have with the other four. I think it's Jim Harbaugh. You never know what he's going to do. He's going to be very hard to predict. Probably a situation you want to stay away to see who develops out of this. It's just one of those late. These guys are going to be picked in the fifth or sixth round and probably still overdrafted. Raiders, there's a new sheriff in town, Zamir White, 60%. And they have so much faith in Zamir White. I might even bump that up a little bit because they went to traded Josh Jacobs if they didn't. Zamir White is going to be their bell cow. I got Alexander Madison at 20% next and Amir Abdullah at 15%. Abdullah looked good in the preseason too. I think, they have some pretty good running backs there at the Raiders.
And they got the rookie too from the later round, sixth round, Dylan Loeb too, or Loeb. They really like him as well. So I'm going to go 60-30 and then 10 actually for Abdul and Loeb. But they could even change a little bit though too. But Zamir White actually got a lot of carries last year when Jacobs was hurt. Those last 4 or 5 games of the year, he was definitely their bell cow. So he's going to look good. I like the potential for him this year actually.
What do you have for the Broncos?
Broncos is kind of a mess as well. Like Javonte Williams, you can't figure him out. Actually, he was really good that first year, and then he got hurt. And he's never really the same last year, but he is fully healthy now. So it usually takes 2 years to come back from those ACL tears. So he could be good this year. Actually, I think I'm only going 50% for Javonte though. I'm going 30 for Jaleel McCollin, and then Audric Estime. He gets the remaining percentage then as well. But McLaughlin, I really like though. He could actually get more carries and give a higher percentage.
What about Samaje Perine?
He's
saying out there too.
He's still.
I know it's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, that's the backfield I don't like as well either. So because Samaje Perine actually last year he was the number 2 there last year. So it's really tough to tell because McLaughlin when he was in he would always put up numbers and bust out big runs. So it's really hard with this one. So maybe I might change it a little bit here. I might go 40, 30, and then 20 between Green and the rookie.
I disagree. I think Javonte gets 60, but everybody else, I just don't know. And I do think they like Audric Estime from Notre Dame. That's where they drafted him from. But it's hard to tell. But Javonte Williams could have a good year. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I like him in the second year coming back from that ACL. And then I think they run him more and they try and give him the ball a little bit more this year. So especially with the quarterback situation kind of iffy there. So
he's like a low end RB1 still.
Yeah, I would agree.
A low end RB1 still. Baltimore Ravens. Now look at what Baltimore did. Got the big guy in town. What do you got for Baltimore?
Oh man, Derrick Henry's a beast. You got to like him. I say Derrick Henry, 75% for sure. And then I say the remaining 25% is going to be split up between Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell when he's back. They actually have a rookie too they really like with Rasheen Ali actually though too, but I don't think he gets many carries. I think most of it's going to go to Henry, and then Justice Hill. They really like him, and I think he gets the remaining percentage with him and Keaton Mitchell once he's back.
Right. Yeah. I think Henry can have an amazing year again. I think it's time. And
perfect place for him too to go.
They did trade some offensive linemen though. They always do that. They seem to shift it around in Baltimore, but Justice Hill is still there. But I think they like Keaton Mitchell a little bit more eventually. I think Keaton Mitchell might overtake Justice Hill, but I still have Hill at 25 and Mitchell at 20. But I'm just saying I think that could change. So no problem here. But here's a bad situation because the Cleveland Browns have Nick Chubb still. Who knows when he's coming back? Some say October, some say 3 to 4 weeks still. it's going to be Jerome Ford at first, and then it's going to be Nick Chubb coming in, taking his carries because they still like him. 60%, I say whoever's going to be starting, and the next guy down. Then you got Deontay Foreman there at 25%. He's going to be hanging out. Foreman's going to be also worth a lot more the first 4 or 5 weeks, and he's going to lose value. It's a situation just stream if you get some injuries, and you might be able to pick one of these guys up for a week or two, but nothing to really draft, Dave.
No, I agree. Jerome Ford, while he's starting, he's actually going to be a valuable running back. But once Chubb comes back, his value is going to dip way down. But definitely his arrow's pointing up right now until Chubb comes back. Jerome Ford can be a quality fantasy football, low-end running back one for you. But then, like you said, once Chubb comes back, his carry is going to go way down. So this is definitely – and then Pierre Strong, actually, too. He looked pretty good last week in preseason. But Deontay Foreman, too, is no slouch. And when he started for the teams last year, looked really good. So this is just an iffy situation here. I think 50 to 60% for whoever starts. And then the rest of those running backs are splitting up the remaining percentages there.
Yep. I agree. It's not like the playoffs are in the first few weeks. You need your guys at the end. And so, you're not sure what's going to happen. So Steelers, I got Najee Harris down to 50% because Jalen Warren, I put him at 40, but I might be low on him. And I got Cordell Patterson and LaMichael Pirine, 10%. Man, I like Warren more than Harris, to be honest, Dave.
I do it too. Actually, in my dynasty league, I drafted Warren in like the 6th or 7th round. I think he could actually eventually take over. And I think he declined his option on Harris's contract actually too. So Warren might be the starter.
This 5th year they declined. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like Warren a lot. Actually, I'm going 45, and then 10% to Cordell.
I might change mine.
Bad place for Cordell to go to. I think he'll get some reception. I think, and he might be like with that scat back kind of. But
Cordell's lucky to be in the league, man.
I agree. He had that one good year, I think, with Atlanta.
Who the hell has he been sweet talking his whole career, man? I mean, he was drafted by the Vikings over 10 years ago, I think, man. It's something like that.
He's still in the league.
And there's a running back, for God's sake.
He's still living off that one good year he had with Atlanta.
I guess, man. Jesus. Good for him, though, right?
Yeah.
Bengals, I see some problems. I'll let you start with the Bengals, but go ahead.
This is a mess, too, I think, actually. I think Zach Moss potentially is going to be the lead back there. I say 40%. And then I think 30% for Brown and probably 20 to 25% for between Williams and Evans. I don't think they get as much, but this is a really iffy backfield. I think Chase Brown could eventually take over that lead back role. Moss is always injured too. He scares me as a guy I'm not going to put too much stock in or draft too much in most of my leagues. I think Chase Brown by the end of the year could be the starter. Javon Williams never really took that lead back role or second running back role to Mixon. So I think he's just a role player as well. So it's going to definitely be between Moss and Brown, but I think Brown eventually takes that backfield over.
Yeah, dude. I am worried for Moss. I think Chase Brown takes it over as well. I think he's the better back and the more trustworthy back. Travion Williams and Chris Evans will be hanging out with about 15%, but I would not draft Zach Moss either. I agree with that. Houston Texans, Joe Mixon, they brought him for a reason, but I still put 60% just being his age. I put Damian Pierce down to 30%, and then Dare Ogunbowale from Madison and JJ Taylor will split the other 10%. I think they're going to be playing more special teams, though. But Mixon was brought there for a reason. I think I could be low at 60%. He's an RB1, Dave, especially on this great team, dude.
Oh, yeah. The Texans are going to be a great football team this year. CJ Stroud in his second year. I'm going the same thing. I'm going 60 for Mixon, 30 for Pierce. And then the remaining, I say 10% between the Jordan Lawler, Jawar actually is a guy they really like there too. So I think him and Dare, they split up that remaining percentage there as well.
Yeah, it would not shock me if Pierce got cut, to be honest with you. It would shock me. We'll see.
It wouldn't actually.
Yeah. Jaguars, what do you got?
Travis Etienne is going to be the main guy there at 25%, or I'm sorry, 75% for him. And then 20% for Take, and then I think Dearness Johnson, and then he'll get the remaining percentage there. So, but I think Travis is definitely going to be the workhorse there.
I had 70-30, 70-15-15, so I'm not far from you. I think Etienne, he had 12 touchdowns last year, kind of quietly, not talked about a lot, but this dude had a ton of value, in my opinion. He had over 1,000 yards rushing, barely, but still.
The funny thing with those two, he hit a lot of those touchdowns at the beginning of the year. He kind of tailed off as the year went on. I don't know what happened with him, but they didn't really get him many touchdowns towards the end of the year. He had a lot of those touchdowns at the beginning of the year, and they kind of tailed off as the season went on. So we'll see. We'll see. But definitely one of my favorite backs, though. He's definitely a top 10 back for me.
Speaking of my favorite backs, Indianapolis Colts, baby, Jonathan Taylor. I love Jonathan Taylor. It was tough for me to trade him last year, but it's just such a weird situation. And I got Mostert in a first round pick or something, so I was pretty happy. 75% for Jonathan Taylor, Trey Sermon, 10%, Tyler Goodson, Evan Hull, 15%. I don't know who's backing this guy up, but I will say that the fact that you're going to find out makes his draft stock better because now you can handcuff him. Nobody's drafting these other guys. I expect a huge year out of him because, you got Anthony Richardson healthy, at least from the start. You hope he stays healthy, but, that should hopefully open it up a little bit for him. I think Jonathan Taylor can have a massive year at the Colts, Dave.
I agree. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot. I got him in some of my dynasty leagues as well. I really like him a lot. He's definitely a back I'll be targeting this year as well. I said 75% for him, 15% for Trey Sermon, and then 10% between Evan and Tyler Goodson. So, like you said, I think they are saying they like Trey Sermon as the backup there, so he's probably their handcuff that you get there. I don't know how much Goodson or Hall see. They won't see many carries at all, I don't think. But yeah, definitely. And then they always have a great line for Indianapolis Colts then too. They still have a lot of their good linemen there, so their O-line is going to be solid as well. And then with Richardson there too, that's only going to help them.
If you want to cockblock somebody, you can grab Trey Sermon late in the draft too, and then your JT guys, you'd be like, "Hey, can I trade you?" Because you know where Trey Sermon stock's going to go as soon as JT might get injured. Wow, that would be a massive little for those deep bench leagues. Think about that. That's exactly. Our league's a deep bench league. Titans, Tony Pollard. I got him at 70% for Tony. Don't like the Titans too much. Tajay Spears, 15%. Hassan Haskins and Julius Chestnut, 15%. Julius Chestnut. It's like he's some running back. It's just kind of a weird name. I know you remember him in college, but Pollard's solid. No Derrick Henry. He's definitely no Derrick Henry, but I would stay away from the situation.
No, I would too. And Tony Pollard, he struggled last year. I think he's going to be better with the Tennessee. But I'm not going as high as you. I'm only going to go 55%. I think Taj Spears actually gets more carries this year, and I think he kind of takes somewhat over some of that backfield. So I'm going 45% for Spears actually, and then the remaining is going to be between Hoskins and Julius Chestnuts. But I don't think they don't see that many carries at all. But I think Taj actually is one of my sleepers I really like this year. So he's a guy I'm getting stock in later in rounds of drafts.
Okay, well, he'll be used a lot more than he was last year, but then again, look at who was in front of him last year. So there you go. Well, let's real quick, Dave. Who is your top 5 in fantasy football? Like if you're drafting 1 through 5, how should the draft go?
Now, are we talking one point PPR?
Just like we do at half point PPR. I think that's the fairest way to do it as a half point.
Okay, so if we're doing half point PPR, I think Christian McCaffrey is still my number 1. I do like Jamar Chase, number 2. Justin Jefferson, number 3. And then I'm going Bijan and Breece Hall to finish it out at 4 and 5, actually.
Wow, you love those running backs. You still got 3 running backs.
I'm still going to. I'm bucking the trend, but I got my receivers up there early, and I think Lamb is probably borderline in that conversation as well.
We'll see. I see Lambert play. CMC, number 1. That's for sure. And then I have Tyreek Hill, number 2. I just think that Dolphins offense is going to have to score a lot of points again. Number 3 is tough, but I decided to go with Jamar Chase. I better get something good out of these Bengals this year because they started bad with Burrow last year, but I still have Chase as the 3rd. Number 4, believe it or not, I have Jonathan Taylor. And the reason I have, here's the thing. What's so good about Saquon? What's so good about Saquon Barkley if he's not getting those tush push touchdowns, those touchdowns? They're going to give it to JT close. He's going to get those goal line hits. They're going to be tush pushing again. They just did it in the preseason last week against the Steelers. I watched it, so that's not going away. And then obviously Breece Hall. I like Breece Hall, and he's probably after Justin Jefferson because I have Justin Jefferson 5th, but Breece Hall could lose some carries to Braylon Allen this year, and who knows how the Jets are going to be with Aaron Rodgers. I expected things, but it's still so much change. I still like Brees Hall, don't get me wrong, number 6, but that's how I have it, Dave. So we're not super far off. I just have that Jonathan Taylor in there,
Where do you got Bijan then? Where do you got Bijan going?
I have him right after Brees Hall.
Oh.
I don't like Kirk Cousins, and he's still coming in a little bit injured. Now they lost their third string wide receiver. Doesn't it feel like the Falcons could get a lot of boxes stacked up against them, even though Kirk Cousins should be able to throw his way out of it? I don't like the coach, Raheem Morris, that much. He was never don't get me wrong. Bijan should be right around. I'm looking at Fantasy Pros. Fantasy Pros has Bijan 6, and I have Bijan 7. So they have it flipped. They have Brees Hall 7, Bijan 6. So I'm not far from that.
No, I agree. I think Bijan is going to get a lot more touches this year, and I think they're going to dump it down to him a lot more too. But I definitely do agree with you on Raheem Morris. I never was really sold on him as a head coach. He does like to run the ball a lot, though. I know that. So Robinson will get his carries. So he'll be one of those running backs that are up there like Rashad White last year. He's definitely going to be one of the most used running backs, I think, this year. And the second year in the league, usually your second year, you kind of take off even more the second year. So we'll see. I'm definitely a big Bijan fan, though, as well. And I like Hall a lot, too.
All right, Dave. Well, we're out of time, my man. We can go into sleepers next week, but thank you so much for coming back, man. I'm very excited for some fantasy football, dude. I think next week we'll probably cover some sleepers and some positions. So it's always going to be fun to get into actual positional rankings because everyone does mock drafts. We don't need to do that boring stuff. We're just going to show you where these guys should be ranked in our opinions, Dave. Have a wonderful week. We'll be talking.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.